Hello, thanks for joining me today. My name is Michelle, and today we're going to assemble the paintbrush box from Dimensional Paper Cuts. I would consider this an advanced project, but a simple advanced project. What makes it advanced is we do have the slopes here that we have to attach. Other than that, it goes pretty fast. So I think you're going to like putting it together. It makes a great little gift box for a crafty friend or an artist friend. We did check, and you are able to stick the, if you're including paintbrush, you can stick them up through there. So it's a clever design that can be reused and looks great in your craft room too. So without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so here are the pieces that we're going to need to form the box part of the box. So I've gone ahead and folded all the pieces back and forth to make sure that they move easily. And we have, this is the bottom. This is the glue tab on the side. These are some of the covering panels, and I'm going to push those off to the side here for just a little bit. And we're going to focus on here. So to begin with, let's just go ahead, fold the glue tab over. This is the front here. Speaking of front, I'm gonna mention before I forget that if you're using a directional pattern, now I'm not using it today, so I don't have to worry. But on here, I did where the little loops, I wanted to all go in the same direction, and in order to get that to do that, I had to take the piece on my cutting mat and rotate it, because I believe it comes like this on the cutting mat, and I had to rotate it like this in order to get this piece. And I wanted to mention that before I forgot. Okay. For the box that I showed you earlier, I used the P13 collection. I can't remember the name of it, something about crafty or creative or something. It has some really beautiful watercolor images of paintbrushes and paints, and it's really lovely. It is, however, very very heavy, and it did make moving the curves a little tricky at times. Okay, so now we're going to fold these under, and there is a very slight overlap in the corners. I actually like the overlap in the corners. It does not add additional bulk, but it does add a little bit of protection in case you don't meet things up exactly in the corners, so that way you don't have a little gap there. All right, so here we go. I'm going to smooth down those taps there on the inside with my old bone folder that I use for gluing. Okay, so we have that. So now we're going to add these panels, and when I attach the panels, I want you to see here, I'm only going to attach the glue from the very sides and the top. I'm not going to add a bunch of glue down in here, and the reason why is if I want to curl these up, they can't really be glued down. And I kind of like the idea that they're slightly curled up, because you know, an old paintbrush, that's what happens there. So I am going to add some glue. If you want to add some inking like I did, I would recommend doing that before you glue this down. I am going to put a little glue down there. Make sure the sides don't pop open. Okay. Do that on the front. on the sides, I'm going to do the same thing. You can curl it a little bit now if you want, or you can do it after it's on there. That part doesn't really matter. And we have 2 more to do here. Burnish that down on the inside. And our last piece. Okay, now we have the box base. Like I said, you can flip those up a little bit, make the brush look a little more worn, gives a little more dimension to the bottom, but make sure that your pieces are nice there on the top, and you are ready. So let's go ahead and move on to the paintbrush handle, which is also the lid. Okay, we have 6 pieces here for our handle, and that will make the top of the box. These 4 are identical. I'm going to put 2 of them aside. The reason we have extras is so that we could add a covering panel to the front. So for instance, here I added, and it helps cover some of the tabs and such. Now I'm going to try and form my tabs to go to the inside of the box here. Okay, but if they do show up on the outside of the box, if you find that to be easier, if you've done something similar and you want to put them on the outside, go right ahead, just use your covering panels. Okay, we have, these are the sides of the box, and we are going to go ahead and move all of the glue tabs back and forth to make sure that they move freely, which I've already done here off camera. And we have this piece, which we're going to move back and forth. What this is that piece, it's this right here to get it to go down over the box. So I also want to point out one of them has a glue tab at the top. We're going to go ahead right now and attach that to the other piece, so we'll have one long piece. Okay. All right. This little seam, try and get that nice and straight. This little seam is also this seam right here that goes to the top. So we do want to get that as straight as we can because it will be shown. All right. We're ready to go. Now, if you can see here, we have, I've been messing with these, so they're kind of starting to fray, but we have our glue tabs here, and then we have 2 little triangle glue tabs. And that is kind of a guide. One of the triangle glue tabs goes up here in the corner, and the other one starts the curve. So that should be our goal. I'm going to give that a little bend there to get it going. And I'm going to start by adding some glue to the 4 glue tabs here and that first little triangle. The best advice I can give you on this is just to be patient. We're going to put that right up there and make sure it meets at the bottom. Okay. I'm going to hold it here for just a second. Make sure it's secured and so it'll make a good anchor before we move forward. Alright, so we have that there attached on there. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to do like 3 or 4 at a time. And I'm just going to take these and put them behind and just make sure that they meet up here. I'm using both hands, and underneath I have my finger right there holding it together so it'll attach easily. Okay. So I'm going to flip back and forth, move the next ones up out of the way. And right around in this curve is where you're going to see it'll start pulling a little bit. We don't really need to force anything, but you know, it wants to go straight. It doesn't want to curve. So we're going to have to hold it in place, make sure that it does what it's supposed to do. Okay, flip it back over. 4 more here, and we're just going to head on up towards the top. Just putting some glue on and holding it, and I'm going to look from the front and make sure it's where it's supposed to be. I am probably going to fast forward this just a little bit, so until I get up near the top. Okay, now that we're up close to the top, we've been wanting to curve one way, and now we want it to switch directions. So you're going to have some overlap on those at these top glue, basically wherever they want to lay, and we just want to fold that in with this hand, and I'm going to grab it with my finger and my thumb, so that that little point meets up with that line. And I'm just going to hold it here because it wants to flip, whoops, excuse me, it wants to flip the other direction. But I'm not forcing it. Okay, you can kind of see underneath there. And now we're going to go back down, and we're basically going to do the same thing. I'll fold all these in. Okay, I'm going to do just a couple of them up here. Get that bumped up to that edge there. I've got my middle finger in there trying to get it to anchor. Flip those glue tabs open so I can get my glue underneath there. I usually have a toothpick to pull when I get too much glue, but I guess I didn't bring it over to this table. Alright, so just make sure that these line up. If you use too much glue, you know, the paper will melt a little bit, so I'm worried about that right there in that corner. Okay, I've got that curve going, and now we're down to about the part where it starts straightening out and the slope is a little bit different. So I'm probably gonna do the same thing and fast forward a little bit so the video doesn't get too boring. Okay, now we're getting towards the end, and remember the one little triangle goes on the straight part. So I'm going to try and get that out of the way. Add a little glue. Got a little too much glue up in there. And then these last bits will go on the straight part of the brush. Okay, and it matches right up there to the end. And there you go. Okay, so we have half of it done. I'm going to let this piece set for just a second because I did use a lot of glue up in there before I go on to the top portion. So I'm going to leave this set, come back just in a second. I'm back. Okay, the inside is now dry. It's hardened a little bit, so I know that the tabs are going to stay put and not go anywhere, and we're ready to move on. This is probably the more difficult of the project, but take your time and I'm sure there'll be no problem. Now, if you recall, on the first one, I tried to bend all the tabs inward. Here I'm going to try and bend them outward so that we can move the tabs to the outside. I think it's going to be a little bit easier than putting them all, you know, towards the inside and trying to do it basically all at once. I also have my bone folder, which is nice and long. You can use a skewer or whatever, just something so you can get up underneath there to pull those tabs over. Let's go ahead and start down here at we're going to go ahead and anchor that right to the top there. Don't forget, we do have covering panels, so this is not going to show. Okay. Make sure that's good and secure before we go on, so that way it won't pull off as we progress. Okay. All right. Just make sure that the edges meet up there where they're supposed to meet. You can see it better on this side, how that one little little triangle goes this way, and then as they start progressing up, it'll go right on top there. All right. We're going to do 3 or 4 at a time. Hold this the top piece towards the edge there, so it meets up real nice. It took me a while to get this one. My original design had a rounded top, and I was talking to my daughter and we realized that most paintbrushes don't have a rounded top. They have more of a point. So we switched everything around to make it a point, and I'm really glad we did. I love having adult children. They're very insightful. Okay, so far so good. Now this part, as we go up, it's going to want to pop in. So we're probably going to only be able to do a few at a time here. Stick this up on here so I have something to hold it up against. You can use a butter knife, one of those long, what are they called? Tongue depressors, skewers, just something to get up, a paintbrush handle, just something to get up inside there. More here. All right. And that's right up there at the top where I want it. So now we're going to start going all the way back down. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm just going to do a couple at a time here to help get things going. Over there. Stick with 2 for now. I've got my bone folder on the inside pushing up on here up against my finger. Okay. It's best to get it as close to the edge there as possible, bunt those up as close to the edge so you don't have gaps. Okay, let me hold that first triangle there. And then we have our last pieces right here, down the straightaway. Okay, that wasn't that hard, was it? All right. This side looks pretty good. We can go ahead and add, if you want, you can go ahead and add a thing to it. This side I definitely want to cover, so I am actually, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and add it to here. Add some glue, get the edges nice. Make sure that it stays put. Whatever glue or whatever you prefer. I would definitely not recommend using a glue stick for this project, but whatever you prefer is fine. And then we're just going to match them up there. Okay, great. Check it out. Fits, works very nicely. Okay, I'm going to add a little more glue. Where was that spot? Maybe it just needs held in a little bit more. All right, now lastly we have this band. This band has one score mark on it, and I'm going to tell you why here. I found that depending on what paper you do, that this band will fall here, and in a different place, depending on how thick the paper is. So this seemed just to be better. There's a little line right there. I put some glue, and I'm just going to make one long piece. One nice long piece. Okay, and I'm going to start and make it butt up to this edge. So I'm going to go ahead and add some glue. And I'm going to put it all the way down to where the pieces meet. I'm going to lay it on top and make sure that it meets up with the left-hand side and the bottom. I'm just going to carry it around, and you'll see that that line where we glued the two together will meet right on the corner there. Okay. Make sure it's nice and secure. And now I'm going to add some glue here. This top paper has a little plastic in it, I can tell. So it might want to pop off. I might have to be a little more careful. But I love that color, that bright pink color. Okay. We're going to just fold that one over, and it'll match up right there. Okay, there we go. And now we've made our paintbrush box. Paintbrush box. It's a little bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Okay. Super happy with the way it came out. I love it. I love that I can decorate it and do whatever I want to with it. Like I said, you can add some inking like I did down here. I just simply used whatever I found. I found some pink and a little bit of a darker pink for the edges. And I even inked this. Ooh, that reminds me, there is a little hole here. Rather than put a hole in the box, we have a little circle that gives the illusion of a hole. And we're going to put that right in the center there. There you go. So you can decorate your box however you'd like. They're fun. It didn't take too long. If this is your first advanced project, congratulations. You did a great job. You can find the SVG files to make this project at the Silhouette Design Store or at the DimensionalPaperCuts Etsy shop, and I'll link to that below. If you purchase through the Silhouette Design Store, your files will have dash score lines, and if you purchase through the Etsy shop, you will find two files. One has dashed SVG files, and one has solid SVG files. Honestly, I would use the dashed ones. I think it's a lot easier to make sure things line up, but that's up to you. You can do it however you want to do it. I'm looking forward to seeing what you've created. So on social media, please hashtag Dimensional Paper Cuts so we can see your projects. Thanks so much, and don't forget to hit subscribe so we can craft again soon. Bye-bye.